Welcome to Charmed, I'm Sure, the cozy, curious podcast where we uncover the hidden magic in everyday life. I'm Jen, and each episode we get charmed by a delightful topic that brings a little enchantment into everyday life. March has arrived, and with it comes a hint of Irish charm. This month, in honor of St. Patrick's Day, we're celebrating luck, lore, and enchanting curiosities that have fascinated people across time and place. What if luck isn't random, but rather something we carry around in our pockets? From coins and clovers to protective talismans, humans have been assigning power to small objects for centuries. Today, we're exploring lucky charms, where they came from, and the psychology behind why they still work on us. Today, we're getting charmed by lucky symbols from around the world and the fascinating stories behind why people believe in them. What's remarkable is how widespread these symbols are. Communities separated by oceans and centuries developed their own charms, yet the instinct was the same: find something tangible to steady the unknown. Before we explore specific examples, it helps to notice a pattern. Most lucky symbols fall into one of three categories. Some come from nature, some are crafted intentionally as protective charms, and others are shapes and signs or even numbers that gathered meaning over time. Once a symbol becomes woven into a shared story, it can last for generations. With that in mind, let's begin somewhere closely tied to this season. Starting with the famous Four-Leaf Clover from Ireland. Most clovers grow with 3 leaves. A 4th leaf appears only rarely, the result of a natural variation in the plant. And because it's uncommon, finding one has always felt special. In early Celtic belief, clover was thought to offer protection. Some traditions held that carrying one could help guard against misfortune or unseen harm. Over time, people began assigning meaning to each leaf: faith, hope, love, and luck. But what truly gave the 4-leaf clover its staying power wasn't just folklore, it was the feeling of discovery. And it's a rare discovery that you stumble upon. And when you do, it feels personal. That sense of being singled out, however briefly, is what turned a rare plant into a lasting emblem of good fortune. Now, from something found quietly in a field, we move to something shaped in fire. The horseshoe has a very different origin. It started as something purely practical, a piece of iron designed to protect a horse's hoof. But in medieval Europe, iron itself was believed to repel evil, and blacksmiths who worked with fire and metal carried an almost mystical reputation. So when people began hanging horseshoes above their doors, it wasn't decoration, it was protection. There's a well-known medieval legend about Saint Dunstan, who had once been a blacksmith. According to the story, the devil came to him disguised as a customer, asking for help with his hoof. Dunstan recognized him immediately, and instead of gently fitting the shoe, he nailed it on tight, pressing the hot iron firmly against the devil's foot, causing the devil to howl in pain. Dunstan agreed to remove it only after the devil promised never to enter a home with a horseshoe hanging above the door. Whether taken as folklore or cautionary tale, the legend reinforced the belief that a horseshoe could keep harm away. Over time, people developed their own rules for how to hang it. Some keep the open end facing upward to hold the luck inside. Others hang it facing downward, allowing good fortune to flow into the home. What began as a working tool slowly became a symbol of protection and eventually a sign of welcome. And while the horseshoe stands guard at the entrance of a home, other traditions imagine protection in a more personal way, not fixed above a doorway, but carried close. One of the oldest protective symbols takes the shape of an eye. The belief in the evil eye reaches back thousands of years. In parts of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, people noticed that misfortune sometimes seemed to follow praise. Success could invite envy, and admiration could turn uneasy. Over time, the idea formed that a jealous or harmful gaze might carry energy of its own. To guard against that possibility, people created protective amulets shaped like an eye, meant to reflect negativity away from the wearer. The familiar blue glass design is still widely seen today, worn as jewelry or displayed in homes. And its strength doesn't come from the glass or the material, it comes from what it represents, the belief that harm can be seen and reflected away. And in many traditions, protection didn't stop with a watchful eye. The next symbol takes the shape of a hand. It's the Hamsa, which originated in Middle East and North Africa. The Hamsa appears in Jewish, Islamic, and North African traditions. Its open palm is meant to face outward, as if gently holding harm at a distance. For centuries, the hand has represented protection and blessings. In many versions, an eye rests at the center of the palm, a watchful presence layered over a gesture of defense. Together, the imagery suggests both strength and care, not force, but steady protection. You'll still see the Hamsa today, worn as jewelry, displayed in homes, incorporated into art. Its meaning has remained remarkably consistent, a quiet wish for safety and well-being. While some charms focus on guarding against harm, others carry a quieter promise, not protection, but connection. In several East Asian traditions, red carries powerful meaning. It represents vitality, protection, and celebration. A simple red thread bracelet is sometimes worn as a safeguard, a subtle symbol of well-being. There's also the well-known legend of the red thread of fate, a story that suggests certain people are invisibly connected, destined to meet no matter the distance or the timing. The thread itself is plain, but the idea woven into it, that certain paths are meant to cross, is what gives it weight. From a single strand of thread, we move to something more intricate. Traditional Chinese knots are decorative designs made from one continuous cord. The looping pattern has no clear beginning or end. That continuity is intentional. It represents longevity, harmony, and lasting good fortune. These knots are often displayed during celebrations, especially the Lunar New Year, as a way to welcome prosperity into the home. Here, luck isn't stumbled upon, it's shaped carefully and displayed with intention. And while some traditions craft luck deliberately, others experience it in a moment. Coins are among the most enduring symbols of fortune. Long before paper currency, coins represented survival, trade, and stability. Carrying one meant security. In ancient Rome, travelers sometimes carried coins for protection on long journeys. In Chinese tradition, round coins with square centers reflected harmony between heaven and earth, a balance of forces. Even now, when someone finds a coin on the ground, it can feel oddly meaningful. It isn't usually about the amount, it's about the moment. The discovery feels timely, as though the day offered a small reassurance. And perhaps that's why coins remain such a lasting emblem of luck. They connect value with chance. Of course, not every expression of luck is something you can pick up or wear. Luck sometimes appears in patterns rather than objects. Which brings us to the lucky number 7. The number 7 has been regarded as fortunate in many parts of the world for thousands of years. In ancient Mesopotamia, 7 celestial bodies were visible to the naked eye: the sun, the moon, and 5 planets. This gave 7 early cosmological importance. In the Hebrew Bible and Christian tradition, 7 symbolizes completion, the world created in 7 days. In Islam, there are references to 7 heavens, and in many traditions, cycles of 7 appear repeatedly. There are 7 days in a week, 7 notes in the diatonic musical scale, and historically 7 classical planets in astrology. Because the number shows up repeatedly in meaningful systems, astronomy, religion, music, and timekeeping, it gradually became associated with harmony, order, and completeness. Repetition built significance, and significance built superstition. When something appears again and again in systems that feel structured and sacred, it begins to feel lucky. Looking at these symbols together, a natural question arises. Why do we continue to hold on to them? The psychology behind this, for the most part, has to do with the fact that uncertainty is uncomfortable for people. When outcomes feel unpredictable, the mind searches for patterns. If something good happens, we instinctively look backward to find what came before it. If a four-leaf clover was in your pocket, if a coin was found that morning, or if a bracelet was worn that day, the brain links those events. Psychologists call this associative learning, forming connections between experiences, especially when emotion is involved. There's also the concept of perceived control. Even a small ritual or symbolic object can restore a sense of agency when life feels uncertain. Research has shown that when people believe they have a lucky charm, their confidence increases. Their anxiety decreases. They often perform better on tasks. The object itself doesn't change probability, but belief changes behavior, and behavior influences outcomes. Lucky symbols endure because they offer a bridge between uncertainty and intention. They give the mind something steady to focus on, and sometimes focus is enough. And maybe that's the real charm of it all anyway. Lucky symbols have traveled across cultures and centuries because they speak to something universal, the desire to feel supported when something matters. Thanks for getting charmed by lucky symbols with me today, and may you notice a little more fortune in your week ahead. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show to keep discovering a little charm, wonder, and inspiration every week. And now it's time for Practical Magic, a tip from today's episode that you can bring into your own life. This week's Practical Magic is about perception. For the next 7 days, in honor of lucky number 7, notice small moments of good fortune. Not grand miracles, but small alignments. A green light when you're running late, a message arriving at the right time, an opportunity that feels well-timed. When something small goes your way, pause and say quietly, "That's lucky." You're training your attention. The more you notice fortune, the more abundant your days begin to feel. And that shift in awareness can change how you move through the world. Sometimes cultivating luck begins with learning how to recognize it. Thanks for listening to Charmed, I'm Sure. And until next time, may every day bring a little charm your way.